Welcome to the Veterinary Rehabilitation Podcast, where we aim to help fellow veterinary rehab therapists increase their knowledge and elevate their practice. I'm Megan Kelly.
And I'm Anae Lloyd. Together, we bring you the latest insights, research, and information in the field of veterinary rehabilitation.
This podcast is brought to you by Onlinepethealth, a leading continuing education membership for veterinary rehabilitation therapists. With Onlinepethealth, you'll have access to a wide range of online resources to help you stay up to date with the latest techniques, advances, and trends in the industry.
Our podcast features in-depth conversations with leading experts in veterinary rehabilitation. They share their own experiences and knowledge to help you improve your practice. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out in the field, our goal is to provide you with the tools and the insights you need to succeed.
So join us as we explore the exciting world of veterinary rehabilitation and help you take your practice to the next level. Hey vet rehabbers, in today's episode I'm joined by Dr. Amir Anwary, a small animal vet who qualified in 2019 and has since built a thriving online presence with over 250,000 Instagram followers and a massive 800,000 on TikTok. Now we dive into Amir's journey from navigating the early days of practice to becoming a social media influencer who's using his platform to educate pet owners in a really fresh and engaging way. He shares how he started, what worked and what didn't, and most importantly, how he's managed to balance his content creation with his locum work without letting it take over his life. So if you ever felt overwhelmed trying to juggle practice and online growth, or you're curious about stepping into the influencer space without burning out, this episode is really going to hit home. Amir keeps it really real, and his story will leave you feeling inspired and maybe even ready to hit record on your own journey. Now, the Vet Rehab Summit is happening on the 8th of November, and this year's theme is Dynamic by Design. So we're going to be diving into canine and equine anatomy and motion, exploring biomechanics, muscle activation, and movement science in practice. It's a full day of inspiration, learning, and connection, and it's happening all online. Our early bird tickets are officially live, and you can grab yours for a $100 discount. This is your chance to lock in your spot at our biggest event of the year at the best possible price. So don't wait, these early bird tickets won't last long. You can head over to vetrehabsummit.com to grab yours. A quick word from our sponsors before we dive into today's topic. At Paw Prosper, we believe true pet well-being demands a three-pronged approach: prevention, support, and rehabilitation. Our brands are trusted by veterinarians, universities, and rehab facilities alike. So whether you're looking to train, rehabilitate, or help your patients age gracefully, our brands, Walking Pets, Help 'em Up, Respond Animal Therapeutics, Fit Paws, Muffins Halo, Sleepy Pod, and Canine Cards offer effective, innovative, and proven solutions. You can sign up today to receive a one-time special gift for all our online pet health listeners with your next order, and you can sign up using the special link pawprosper.com/OPH. And of course, you'll be able to see Paw Prosper and all their brands on the 8th of November at the Vet Rehab Summit. Right, over to my chat with Amir. Hey Amir, thanks so much for joining me.
Hey Meg, thanks for having me. It's such a pleasure.
Amir, why don't you tell the listeners about your veterinary journey?
Okay, so hi everyone. So my name is Amir and I'm a veterinarian. I graduated in 2019 at Onlinepethealth, South Africa. And, initially I thought that I would want to be a wildlife vet. A lot of the graduates in my year were of that mindset because wildlife was very big at the time in South Africa, and started practicing in the Eastern Cape. So our first year we do as what we call a Zuma year. You work for the government. You get paid way too much. I'll be straight up upfront about that. Like it's insane. But you work in a rural community and you do very intense stuff. So I mean, within the first 3 months, I was doing amputations and pyometra surgeries, foreign bodies, like everything. You get very good experience. And after that, I worked in the Eastern Cape during the COVID period. It was very nice. I lived on my mom's farm, so it was. I actually had some sort of a life, unlike other people that were in the cities that were locked up always and forever. But it was a lovely experience at the time, but it was also a very small town. It was maybe a town of somewhat of like maybe 20,000 people. I mean, possibly even less. And I was there for about a year. And then when COVID regulations started easing up, I decided to move to Cape Town. And that would make me much happier. I think when it comes to work, especially working as a vet, the work in itself is so taxing, and it can be so just a normal day as a vet can take so much out of you that I find that you have to actually try to control every other situation in your life or try and make everything else in your life as perfect as you can or as synchronized with what you want as you can, because if you do that, then your work gets to you less. I find that when I was in a place where I was not happy and work got intense, that it was significantly harder on me because I had multiple factors that I was sort of not happy with at the time. So moving to Cape Town was really great. I was in a place where I was happy. This is where I was sort of meant to be. And then I started working. I did a lot of locum work. So nothing permanent, just working per hour, which was also very nice because you're in control of your schedule and you can work at different practices. You can see what you like. I find that's very important. Something that vets need to do is that you actually need to experience different places to figure out what you like. Because I think many vets, they take on permanent roles in clinics and they get used to a certain way of doing things. And often it's something that they're not happy with. So I've seen so many vets that are not happy, and you're like, well, why don't you go here? Why don't you go there? Why don't you try this? And it's something that they just never considered. They just always assume that this is the way that it has to be. So I moved around a lot and I've been in Cape Town for 3 years now. I've worked at 7 or 8, 9 different practices. So on and off locuming here and there. And now I work in Observatory and in Newlands as a locum as well. And I'm really enjoying it. It's really amazing. It's been a journey. Trust me, I've been through the why did I become a vet? This is the worst decision I ever made in my life to, oh, I'm never going to be happy, and to the, okay, I'm just going to stop everything, and then to the, okay, fine, I found what works. So yeah,
That's so funny you say that because I've had exactly the same thoughts. I think every vet has it.
I'm
I
100% sure.
remember, yeah, I remember when I first qualified, and like I think it was like two or 3 months into being a vet, I was like, what have I done? This is dread.
Right.
I hate this. But I think it was mainly at that time for me, just because I just felt so out of my depth, you know.
Mm,
Um, and I think a lot of us are the type of people that, those A-type personalities where everything has
yeah.
to be right. And that
Mm,
learning curve in the first few years is so hectic and you're just so hard on
mm,
yourself and you keep thinking, oh, I could have done that better, or did I do that right? And those kind of negative thoughts all the time. And I remember thinking,
yes.
this is not going to sustain me. I'm not going to be able to carry on. But then as you do more and more and more, you get, like you say, you find what works for you. And I think the more
Yes.
confident you become, for me, definitely as a vet, I
Mm,
started to enjoy it more. So like when I was like,
mm,
oh, I've seen this before, and
yeah,
then I enjoyed that case, it was that when
exactly.
you haven't seen the case before and you're like, oh my gosh, like this is the first
What
time.
the hell is this?
Yeah,
And then you
exactly.
start panicking because it's like you don't have the luxury to panic in vet, because it's like you've got this case and then you know that you're already booked up for the next 2 to 3 hours and clients are coming in. That's always something that I found. It's like confidence and knowledge is almost a prerequisite, to being a vet or to being able to survive as a vet. If you're very new to it and you're put into this hectic environment where you're expected to just finish your consults in 20 minutes to know exactly what's going on. You don't have the time to read up or to check. And that happens every single day. I think that takes it out of you completely, completely,
Yeah.
completely. Mm.
And I love that, where you said like working at different practices because every practice is different. And
Mm.
I also feel like working at multiple practices, and I've worked at a few, every single time I met new people, and it doesn't necessarily mean other vets. Like I remember learning so much from vet nurses, and like
Mm.
you learn so much from those people. So
Oh,
actually,
100%.
like you say, like moving and actually going to different practices, you just gain so much more knowledge and information
Mm,
from
mm,
people. Like
mm.
they're all these little hacks and tricks that they teach you, and you're like,
Oh,
oh, that's,
yes,
yeah, I
100%.
love that one. Yeah,
Everyone teaches you a weird way, a different way of how to put in a jalco or a different way of how to restrain a dog, and all that stuff just helps, and you find exactly what works for you, and you streamline
exactly.
your vet process as well.
Yeah, I love it. So when did you start creating your social media platforms? So I mean, you've got a huge following. How many people are following you?
So on TikTok, it is 800,000, just
Wow.
above there. We
Yeah.
just hit 800,000 this past week. So very, very excited about that. And Instagram, it's about 260,000.
Okay. Yeah, so
So it's,
I'm not big on TikTok. So I
yeah.
actually I saw you the first time on Instagram actually.
Mm.
And what I love about your content is you just make me laugh every time. Like there's always something funny, it's mixed in with the serious because then there are
Mm.
the serious posts where you're actually educating and but
Yes.
there's a lot of what do you call it? Edutainment. What do they call it? Like when you like you're educating at the same time as entertaining.
Yes.
And yeah, I mean
Educating, but
that's
making
something
it
that's
funny.
yeah, and that's something that
Mm.
you've really nailed. Is that something that just came naturally to you, or did you have to learn to do that?
Yeah, I definitely had to learn to do that. Like in the beginning, when I started making content, I was a mess. I can tell you that. Like it was, I didn't understand like the platform and what you can and cannot do. So I would use TikTok as a platform to sort of like vent,
Yeah,
my rage of things that happened, and I would, and it was quite bad. Now in retrospect, when I look back at some of the stuff that I said and some of the content that I made, it was very, very edgy. It was something that vets would understand, like the things that
yeah,
frustrate vets, but something that pet owners don't want to hear. I think a lot of
yeah,
pet owners don't want to hear about the frustrations that vets go through. I think they like romanticizing the idea that vets are just doing the most, and they're very happy with their jobs, and they're all like that idea of a vet. But you can't really talk about the frustrating aspects of it and the difficult clients, because then it starts to come across as you're not actually happy in your job. So
yes,
that was my initial going into it. And then as I started making more and more content, I started figuring out what works. And in a weird way of saying, when I started being authentic, so I started actually just saying the things that I would say to people, to clients at the vet clinic, or the things that I truly found were funny for myself. And not just trying to make viral content, because in the beginning it was like, okay, this is something that people talk about. Let's try this viral thing. And this is something, let's try this viral thing. And that's how I did it. And it was never truly, I didn't have any joy and making the content. And now I love it. I mean, when I'm having a day when I'm recording TikToks, I'm super excited. Like, I'm like, oh, yes, we're going to make this amazing content. I can't wait to see how this turns out. I hope people see what I did with this joke. And exactly like you said, so it's like making entertainment and then giving a description or perhaps of why it's educational or what it relates to. And yeah, that's experience, I'd say.
yeah. And
Mm.
the goal of starting those social media platforms was to be an influencer, or did you just start them with not really much a goal in mind?
Yeah, I remember the day that I started it. I was on Instagram, and then I saw a post about how TikTok was going to be the next big thing. So they were talking about how TikTok and Instagram are going to be the next big thing coming out. And then it's like if you don't get into it now, you're gonna miss that train. And then I said, well, okay, let me try do something, because there was this other vet on TikTok. His name is Dr. Hunter Finn. He was making content, and it was very simple stuff, information with a dance. And I was like, I can do that. And then I started making the content, not knowing where it would lead. And it actually took off, and it did very, very well. But it was until the past year. So last year, beginning of last year, where it really, really grew a lot. I went from 200,000 to 800,000 in a year and a half to 2 years. Whereas previously it took me 3 years to 4 years just to get to 200,000. So it's the growth in the last year has been exponential. Mm.
Yeah. And in those early days, when you're creating content, I'm just like putting myself, I mean, I've also been in those shoes before when I first started my social media platform
Mm.
and, Instagram as an example. And, you're putting all this effort into creating content and
Mm.
just nothing, you're stuck in the 200 jail.
Yeah.
Can you give advice for those out there that are trying to grow their social media around that?
Okay. Yes, I can. So I suppose my advice would be funny, because the way I initially got out of the 200 view jail, and don't judge me for this, was I made like a couple shirtless posts, like shirtless dances and like thirst trap things. So those were the first videos that got me out. And then I started making, so when you're not per se famous, or when people don't know you, people are reluctant to give their attention to someone that's just starting on TikTok. So it's like sort of like if they see that your post has 2 likes or 3 likes, even if it's good content, people instinctively are just going to scroll by it, because they're like, why would I be interested in this? So what I found was, in the beginning, doing content that didn't actually have my face on it. So doing content that wasn't personal to me as a vet myself, but doing content that showed very interesting vet things. So I would pull ticks off dogs. I would, lance an abscess, and those videos got an insane amount of views, an insane amount of engagement. And from those videos, I could sort of jump on to that traction. And then it worked much better when I started posting myself. So then after that initial amount of, people that see you and that know you, then I started to gain traction. But I think a lot of people, they like, the weird thing is, people don't necessarily care about you when you're not famous or you're not spoken about yet. So using content within your field, especially if you're in a vet, like showing something very interesting, just be careful on TikTok because they want to ban you for everything. So like you need to be very careful. I put a fetus on TikTok once. I'm like, this is so cool. Abuse. I got shouted at for abuse. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the big thing. It started off with me actually not showing myself on camera per se. It was interesting vet things that people wanted to see that they didn't have to attach a face to. It was just something that people love watching, like pulling a tick off and then going from that traction.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I think in our field, so I mean, the listeners to my podcast are in a niche of veterinary, so veterinary
Mm,
rehabilitation, and I can really see how that could work for them. I could see them
mm.
like posting dogs in the underwater treadmill or fitting a prosthetic or putting a dog in the wheelchair. So not necessarily them speaking. And I think for a lot of them, that's the kind of content that they prefer to create. So for a lot
Yeah.
they're very shy. They don't actually want to be their face on. And so what you're saying is that's actually okay. You don't have to.
I mean, Rehab, they would kill it. Like they would make such a killing on TikTok because I just saw a video, funny that you had mentioned, of a little Labrador that was in a water treadmill,
Yeah,
and he was just walking, but he had his little plush toy in his mouth. And
yeah.
they recorded it 6 seconds of him walking with a song, and it got 3.4 million likes. That is at least 20 million views for that
Wow.
video. So
Yeah.
people love watching dogs, cats, injured animals get fixed, and in these weird contraptions. I think that would be great. I would love to make more content with animals in it as well, but because my page is sort of quite big now, I always run into issues with the Poppy Act and with privacy. So that's why I can't make that kind of content. But I mean, if they have their own rehab facilities or the vets are okay with it, that would be amazing.
Yeah. So how
Hmm.
do you balance doing your locum work and working as a vet and creating the content? Like what does a typical day for Amy look like?
Yeah, that's so the balance is something that I'm still working on now. I I tried to do just the social media with no work and I went crazy. So I really enjoy being a vet. I like doing the vet work, so that's not something that I can just stop for the social media just yet. But I wake up very early, so 5:15 every day, and then I will do like a meditation, and then I read up on, so either it's TikTok work or work for cases at in vet. And then usually I'll take a half an hour to research TikTok ideas. So that's my gift, is that like when I go through videos on TikTok and I really get to, like, I call it the zone, like somehow my algorithm is just feeding me good ideas and I can get literally like 30 ideas within half an hour. Then I write those down in a book, I save the audios, and then I go about my day. So I'll go to work, and I'll perhaps, if I'm having a lunch break at work, I'll record content then. So I never I never really waste time. I think that's the biggest thing. It's like if I have a moment free, I won't sit on my phone and scroll through Instagram, or I won't watch a series or something like that. Like I'll try find a way to do something social media related, or think of a new idea. It's always, on some level, you always have to be thinking about content that you can make, especially when you are working, because you won't have the luxury of time.
Yeah, I mean, one of the difficult things, and if I think back to myself, so when I was in
Mm,
practice, it was just the early days of like social media. And I felt it a bit awkward, like to be
mm,
like consulting and then to say to the clients, oh, do you mind if I just quickly take a video, or do you mind if we just take something of us, you know? Because I feel like it sort of took away a little bit from the professionalism of what I'm doing, because it's like the
Yes.
owner's like in my mind they're thinking, oh, like is she just doing this like and using us like for her
Yeah.
social media? And so like how do you get around that? Like are you when you're doing some of your recordings and things like that, is it ever actually with patients there, or is it always like in a different situation where you sort of do a mock setup of what actually happened when you had the
Yes.
idea, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, 100%. No, I that is exactly the issue that was actually like giving me a form of anxiety last week because I felt that when I was at work, I was way too focused on content. So I would want to, even to the point of like rush a case because I'm like, okay, you know what? I want to make this piece of content, so I'm gonna just like not like the actual case was fine, but for example, doing my clinical history, I would rush through that because I wanted to record a TikTok because I knew that I've got a client coming in another 5 minutes, or I would have a patient and they matched the features of a orange cat which I wanted for a TikTok, and then instead of really paying full attention to the case on my mind, I would be like, okay, when can I take a picture with this animal? What can I do with this animal? And that was something that really bothered me because I I didn't want it to be like that. Like I didn't want the social media to completely take over me. And it also felt like it wasn't authentic, it wasn't real. It felt like I was compromising myself in doing that. So then I made a sort of conscious decision that I would not, like while I was working, I would not ask owners to make content with their dogs. I would not pick up my phone if I was doing a clinical history. I would just make sure that my job comes first at work. And then if I truly have a segment where I have no consults for 2 hours or no consults for an hour, then I would. And if I have a dog and I've chatted with the owner and they're like, oh my goodness, I've seen you on TikTok, please do a video with my dog, then I'll do it, when it's sort of that kind of a situation. But no, I've also had that that exact same problem and I've dealt with it in that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it must be such a juggle because obviously when you're so into the social media, your brain's always ticking over, like you say, oh, that ginger cat, that could really,
Mm,
really work well. What would you recommend for somebody who has their own practice? Like they
mm-hmm,
and I'm thinking like of my vet rehab therapists now. So a lot of them are one-man bands. So they
mm,
work on their own and one of the things is they work really, really long consult hours. So, like a consult for a normal veterinary would be like 20 minutes. A vet rehab
mm.
therapist is like an hour, sometimes an hour and a half.
Jeez.
So it's very, very long. Like an hour and a half would be like the initial consults, like getting the history and doing the full examination and lameness and everything that you're doing.
Mm,
It can take like up to about an hour and a half sometimes an hour. But
mm,
what advice would you give them in order to be able to create the content where they didn't have to um, basically in the consult ask the clients because like most of them are not famous, right? So they're not
mm.
going
Oh
to
yeah,
be
yeah,
like the clients aren't coming and saying, "Hey, please, can you create a post about my pet?"
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's in that context, so if you're doing rehab, there will be instances when you are with the owner, but then there are also going to be several when you're not. So you can ask the owner if you can take the dog to the back because you need to, like, sometimes I'll ask, can I take the dog to the back, do some injections? And while they're in the back with me, I will take a quick photo or I'll do a quick video. And then I'll ask them, look, I took a video of your dog. Do you mind if I post it on social media? And then it's usually not a problem. I think it's just the fine line of um, not not compromising the client's sort of comfort at the vet clinic and also the animals right not to be sort of used in that scenario. So if you're trying to film a dog doing a very specific thing, I'm like, I get 2 to 3 chances. Like I record it, it doesn't work in the way I want it, I record one more time, and if it doesn't work one last time, and then I'm like, you know what, it's done. You can't keep using this patient to try to get content. And if it's not doing what I want it to do and the owner's waiting outside, then I won't sit in there and pretend like I'm doing injections or clinical for like 10 to 20 minutes and then just keeping the patient with me. I think many people are quite kind. They're okay if you take them to the back and if you're very quick about it and you just tell them, look, do you mind if I post this video with your dog? They're really okay with it. And I think in rehab, I mean, if you're doing the baths and a lot of the physio and mobility, presumably, are you always with clients or do you never do that sort of separately?
Sometimes they'll drop the patient off.
Mm,
But a lot of the time they're just one person, so they
mm,
don't even really have like you could put a little tripod up and film what you're
yeah.
doing. A lot of them do that. They'll just actually say to the clients, do you mind if I film this? And then they put a tripod up, and they just film everything that they're doing. And then they'll
Mm,
just take snippets out of that, which I think is a good way to do it.
mm, mm, mm.
Because then you're not zooming in, right? It's just like an overall sort of picture
Yeah,
of
yeah.
what you're doing.
Mm,
But a lot of the time, the clients will be with you. I mean, I think when I was in practice, 80%, 85% of the time I had a client with me. Every now and
mm.
again, especially when you've had clients that you've had for long times, they'll say, "Oh, can I just drop my dog off and quickly go and do it, run an errand and come back?"
Yeah,
Because you
yeah.
know what
And
you're
then
going to do, and yeah, it's like maintenance type treatment.
yeah.
But most of the time they're with you, yeah.
Well, look, I think also then talking to them and saying, look, can I do a video? I want to record it for educational purposes, whether it's going onto TikTok or not. If it is, it's technically still educational purposes because you are educating someone on what you're doing. Then I find that most of them are really fine. It's just about, doing it in such a way that you're not making the owner feel uncomfortable or like the reason they're there is to make this content for you. I don't believe many of them feel that way. I think that's more an internal fear that you have. I don't really think they care if you do two or three or four recordings, but it's also you need to feel comfortable with what you're doing, and it's good to have an idea. So when you go in, I scroll TikTok half an hour a day for the purpose of finding content and finding what works. And once you know exactly what works and what gets views and what gets likes, you can tailor your content specifically to make the video that looks like that. Because if you're just recording and hoping to get something that could go viral, you can be recording forever. Like you have to have a set idea of the things that do work. And then you try to just push those pieces of content.
Yeah, and obviously mix it in with your style. And
Exactly, yeah. So you find a way that your style mixes with something that's trending. Some people also like it when you just go original, when it's just you doing your thing in a certain way. But in many cases, you do that and then you just don't get the views, you don't get the reach. I've seen some people make, especially in the vet community, make such good educational content that is really, really like, I mean, so informative, so well researched, and the video will get like 50 likes. And I'm like, this is also the nature of TikTok. There's so much competition, there's so many people making content. You can't almost just do one thing. You can't just do one thing, even if it's something that they've never seen before. You need to do that one thing with a trending sound, with a spin on it. There's always like, when I try to make something that goes viral, I have like a checklist. Like it needs to be relatable, it needs to be a really good audio, my acting needs to be on point, the camera, the lighting needs to be really, really good, the timing of the transitions needs to be perfect. Like there's so many things you have to consider to make a viral video. And yeah, I think often just recording one thing and just putting that on is not enough.
before I forget, just to the listeners, guys, you have to ask people if you can take photos of their pets. You can't just
100%,
take
yeah.
videos and photos and just post them without asking. So please, just make sure if you ever are doing that, you need to get the owner's permission. And you
Mm,
can do that actually on your consent form. So when somebody comes in, you actually get them to tick a box on the consent form that they fill out, or if it's online, to say that you give permission for us to take pictures and share them of your pets on social media, and they can just tick it from the beginning. So then but then you must have some type of way of knowing this client has ticked the box or hasn't. So yeah, you can get into big trouble, and you don't want to
mm,
do that to a client. I remember having a client who literally, I mean, I think once they like part of their dog's body was in a photo because they were coming into a room, and we posted it, and they were so upset with us because they'd said that they only knew that it was them and it was part of their dog's body because they remember coming into the room and seeing the photo. I remember us taking it and then we shared it. So like that, and that client was so upset with us, and she really just felt very strongly about social media and not having her dog on social media, even though it wasn't
Ah,
space or anything, and it
mm,
was fine, but she was really upset, like genuinely upset. So yeah, just make sure you do that. Amy, let's chat about, obviously all of us become vets, become vet physios, vet rehab therapists because we want to make a difference and make an impact.
yes. Mm,
I mean, what you're doing now, like, you think about just in practice, like for each of us as a vet rehab therapist or vet, how many patients we can see a day and the impact that we can have. It
mm,
must be amazing to have 800,000 followers and to post a video out there that is educating and helping and, spreading the word about the best way in which to treat our animals and health and
mm.
everything. And to reach like 4 million people. I mean, that is impact. I mean, like, how does that feel for you? And is that something that, was in the beginning like what you wanted or something that you only realized as you were doing it, geez, I'm actually making a difference here.
Definitely the latter. So I didn't know that I suppose people would be listening because I felt that what I said was it felt obvious to me. It was like saying normal things that I would say to my clients when they came in, things that advice that I would give them. But I've always been very I had a good way of communicating with clients, and I'm always very thorough with what I do. And if I ever do anything, I always say exactly why I do it and the reasoning that goes behind it. And I started noticing that many vets don't do that. So when I would speak to clients, and especially if they came in and skin issues, arthritis, elderly dog, whatever it was, and I would give them the breakdown of, okay, well, this is, what happens when the dog's get old, this is what you have to do, this is why you have to do it. And if it's a skin issue, this is this. And then, they'd been to vet several times and they were never, well, at least they told me that it was never told to them like this. Like they were just given anti-inflammatory meds and said, okay, here you go, pain meds, your dog has arthritis, and didn't mention anything else beyond the typical, sort of vet treatment, I suppose, in some cases. And then I started just basically making the same content that I would for my clients at vet clinics and would posted that or repurposed that for social media. And I got really good responses. I had no idea that there were so many people. I mean, people would stop me and say, oh, I really like your TikToks. And then I would say, okay, I assume it was a funny one. I was like, okay, was it the cat one? Was it the funny one? They're like, no, 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 it was the educational stuff. It really helped me with my dog. And I was like, are you serious? And then I would speak to clients and they said, yeah, you recommended this pet supplement and I had to get it because you said it. And I was is this really like going on? Like it really helps them. That's the thing. It's everything that I tell them I also apply to my own dog. So no, I definitely didn't expect it to my advice to carry the weight that it does. But I'm very happy that it does because it also made me a lot more responsible with the way that I give information. So before I used to just sort of go off my brain what I've experienced and talk about that. Now I if I before I say something or talk about a topic, I will go research scientific papers, papers and studies to ensure or to back up what I'm saying. And I didn't do that in the beginning. Beginning it was just experience and what I've done. And now it's actually like if I say something, I can back it up with scientific research.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, I love it. I mean, that's one of the things about veterinary and, any of the veterinary professions is that you think when you study it, that is like what you're going to do. And so you're just going to be practicing. But it actually opens up so many opportunities. And I mean, now obviously social media has opened up an opportunity for you. How do you monetize your social media? So I mean, obviously you're still locoming, so you're generating some
mm,
income in that way. But
yes.
what is the monetary value of your social media accounts to you now?
So to be honest, it's actually not as much as I would have thought it would be. And I think it's more my problem in this regard. I love making social media content and I love posting and I love having a following, but I hate making ad videos. Like it's not like I'm getting into it, but when companies still ask me today, what's your rate card? What do you charge? I don't have one. I don't have a set amount of really how I charge. it's not something that I pay much attention to. So I know that it's, I mean, because I've advertised, our omega-3 products, and I know that my word does carry a lot of weight because after I make a video, the sales will like go up by 100, no, no, 1,000% in that day for 5 days, so it's there definitely is that influence that I do have. But I've done videos for advertising company, for insurance companies, and I've done a few videos for treat companies. But in the greater scheme of it, especially in South Africa, not that much. But I believe that that is all going to change. Yeah. So
Yeah.
in the next couple of days, I am going to be doing a lot with regards to partnering with companies. But it's
Mm.
also the nice thing about that is, even if you're not monetizing from it straight away, just because you have that platform, if I had to stop working now and I wanted to tweak my content in a way where it would be more palatable for advertising companies, I could do that very quickly. And I know this about, like, I've tested it out before when I would change my content for 2 weeks, make it viral, a bit more educational, marketing a product perhaps, and then within those 2 weeks, I'd have 3 or 4 companies messaging me saying we'd like to collaborate with you because the reach is there. Once you have the reach, you really have potential to do everything. And once you have the following, you have the potential to do everything. It's just about, are you at the point where you're like, okay, now I'm ready to monetize it.
Yeah,
Mm.
and I love how you're doing it, where it's an additional to what your work. And a lot of
Mm.
the vet rehab therapists, they can do the same, right? So they
Mm,
can still have their
definitely.
practice, and it allows you, having a social media flowing and monetizing it in some way. And I mean, the ways that, like, I think for you are probably you've got your pet survival guide.
Mm,
So I'd
mm,
love to chat about that.
yes.
So you're selling one of your own products. You have Vets to Pets, which has an omega supplement. You
Yes.
can sell it on there. So you've got
Mm,
like basically like supplements that you're selling, so you can sell.
yes. Yes.
And you could also do branded like collaborations with other
Mm,
companies. So you could sell,
100%.
you probably wouldn't go in the supplements because you don't want to compete with your brand.
No,
But
no,
like
yeah.
insurance is a great one. Like, and
Mm,
those kind of companies will pay influencers like Amir basically that to there are different ways in which they do it. They can do a retainer
mm,
where you're like create a certain number of posts, but sometimes they just pay you for one post.
exactly.
So, and then is there a way? I mean, I know like and I'm not in this league because my following is not big enough. But isn't there like with Instagram and TikTok, like if you get certain number of views, isn't there a way to monetize like your content there, like and to pump ads through? Like, isn't there a way to monetize TikTok where you're not actually selling something? It's TikTok actually paying you money for views.
So that's called the Creator Fund, and it's not available in South Africa. So that's why a lot of content creators will leave South Africa to do content in the UK or in the US. It's because we don't apply for many of the creative. So yes, in theory, if I had that and I would have gotten, for just the views, I think I would have made about, just on a monthly basis, just for views, between 60 to 100,000 in rands, which is not like I mean, for the fact that it's just like free money, it would have been
Yeah.
great. But no, that's unfortunately not something that you have here. And the companies in South Africa, they're very new to influencers, especially the companies owned by the older generation, which is a lot of them. They don't understand the value of influencers just yet. I think America and your UK, it's much better to be an influencer there as compared to South Africa. But having a following and having influence in general, even if you're not getting amount every month, is definitely valuable. It gives you freedom. I think now I never felt the need to stay in a job that I didn't like once I had the social media platform, because it gave me, like, if things aren't going well at work, or if I need to do something else, I have that option. It gives you something to fall back on, which is a freedom that is amazing. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, and if you've got your own practice, you're using it at the same time to promote your
Oh yeah,
practice.
that would be amazing. Yeah, so if you did
Yeah.
have your own practice and then you had the social media, that would be insane. That would probably be like the next best thing. Mm,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Tell us about the Pet Survival Guide. What made you create that and just a little bit
Mm.
about it?
Okay, so I came across a woman at Mambo's. It's a plastic shop in South Africa. And she came up to me and she said, "Oh my God, you're the TikTok vet." I said, "Yes, I am, yeah." And then she said, "You know, my dog ate poison the other day." And the first thing I did was I went onto TikTok and I looked onto and I searched for Amir the vet poison or dog eats poison video. And I laughed. I was like, okay, you should have gone to the vet straight away and not looked at TikTok for the vet's videos on poisoning. But that got me to thinking. It's a lot of people rely on or rely on social media influencers for a lot of the advice that they get, and especially when it comes to emergency care and treatment of dogs and cats. So I took all of the content that I've made over the years that had the most views, the most likes, the most people saying thank you for posting this, it really helped. And I put that into a PDF format with clear instructions on how to do everything. So there is a section on how to make your pets vomit, your dog vomit if they've eaten poison. And this is, obviously, if they take 2 hours to get to the vet, or if they can't get to the vet within the period that the poison goes to through the stomach into the intestines, you are fighting an uphill battle. So if you can get your dog to vomit up the moment it eats a poison and gets it out of their system, then I always say that is the best thing to do. And I give them the safe way to do that. So a way that you can do that at home. I show them how to make an emergency kit. I show them how to do CPR if you're in an emergency, where to place your hands, how exactly it has to be done, when you would have to do it. So it's just basically a very simple instruction guide on how to handle emergencies with your pets when you're in the position when you don't have a vet available to you.
Awesome. And tell us about what made you start Vets to Pets, because the entrepreneur is coming out on you now. You
I'm
authored a
blessed.
PDF and now you're creating supplements, which is awesome.
No, I'm very blessed to have brothers that are very driven, and a partner that is also very, very driven. They they've been talking about business stuff since they've been like 12 years old. It's truly unbearable when I was a child. You couldn't just sit at the table and talk about something fun. It was always like, oh, how are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? And we always wanted to do a business together, but we never really had a clear idea of what that was going to be. And then, because I had the social media following, my brothers were like, well, why don't we do something in the pet industry? And they asked me, is there anything that is lacking? Like, is there anything that you could say is lacking in the pet industry that we need to, that we can sort of, in a sense, capitalize on, but also provide? And yeah, I said, look, yeah, one of the big ones is omega-3. There's no real good quality omega-3s for dogs with skin problems, with arthritis, and it's so beneficial. And I keep having to like give people, like, I don't like giving people, for example, Miracoat if they have skin issues, because it's just a lot of omega-6 and it's not really going to make the issue much better. And I said, well, this is something that we can try out. And then we started it. We started the product and I advertised it, and it did so well. People were so happy. It really made such a big difference. And then we said, okay, well, let's just move on from here. So I do the marketing and I do the sort of deciding what kind of a product we want to sell. And then I'm also influenced on play a very big part in also pricing the product, because I think sometimes when you have very ambitious brothers, they have this view of wanting to profit as much as they can. And but now it's obviously not the same. But this was in the beginning, and I was like, look, like, this is not what we're here to do. We're not trying to abuse people because they care about their pets or because their pets have issues. We are going to find a way that this is mutually beneficial for everyone involved, and we're going to provide the best that we possibly can give to them. So and that's exactly how it started. So I'm not very clued up with the entrepreneurship side of it, I'll be honest, but yeah, I'm glad that I have a team that is very, very up to date with everything. Mm.
Awesome. If someone is interested in those products, what is the website they can go to?
So it's on Takealot. So that's the current place where you can get it. It's the company's called Vets to Pets, and there's an omega-3 supplement and there's a joint supplement. So the joint supplement as well, I looked at all the other joint supplements that are on the market right now, compared the ingredients, and I found that they're all very similar and quite expensive. So we simply made a better joint supplement with more of the beneficial ingredients and lowered the price. And it was still, I mean, you can still make a decent profit. And it's quite interesting that when you get into the process of the manufacturing, you see how so many supplement companies are actually really making very big profits on things that are not entirely that great, you know? So
Nice.
it's a,
So obviously for the listeners, these are only available in South Africa, these products.
yes, yes.
So I will put the link in the show notes and then also the link for the Pet Survival Guide.
Yes,
Um,
I will put that. I will put the link for the Pet Survival Guide. That's on my Instagram and TikTok bios. It's www.amirthevet.com, and there you'll basically find what you need. And and then I will share the link for you for the Vets to Pets online website. But then they can also grab it on Take a Lot. So it's for
awesome.
all your dogs with skin problems and dry skin and rashes. Omega 3 is the best.
Awesome. Amir,
Mm.
thanks so much for chatting to me about this. It's been so interesting because
No.
I love anything social media and marketing. And
Mm.
as somebody who also creates content and I
Mm.
hate all the trends and the things like that, I try and do them sometimes, but I don't do it. But it's been so lovely chatting to you. And you really have been an inspiration. I mean, I think for a lot of professionals out there that there is another way in which we can
Mm.
make an impact and a difference. So yeah, keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much, Meg. I really appreciate the interview. It's lovely talking to you as well. And hopefully we can do it again sometime.
For sure.
Mm.
Cheers, Amy.
Thanks so much. Hey, you have a lovely day.
You too.
Cheers,
Bye.
everyone. Bye bye.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please hit the subscribe button so you get notified every time I load a new podcast. I'm here every week talking to vet rehab therapists from all over the world about all things vet rehab. A big thanks to our sponsor, Paw Prosper. Their sponsorship allows us to be able to give this podcast to you for free, so please go and check them out at pawprosper.com. Don't forget to bookmark the next Vet Rehab Summit on Saturday, the 8th of November, 2025. Come and be a part of the world's largest online veterinary rehabilitation conference created specifically for you, the vet rehabber community. Online Pet Health members get VIP complimentary access to the Vet Rehab Summit. For more information about continuing education for vet rehabbers, you can go to onlinepethealth.com.